Colin Cowherd.
Josh Rosen, UCLA quarterback, declared for the NFL draft. Hour later, Instagram, Sam Darnold declared for the NFL draft. It was time for both to go. On average, NFL coaching's better than college coaching. Both are going to have growing pains. Guess what? If you're not having growing pains, then you're not challenging yourself.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
2 through 5 on 1420 NBC Sports Radio Tri-City. Follow us on Facebook.
Okay, forest animals, kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow, have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. River, how's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man.
I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. Okay. Squirrel.
The forest has been preparing just for you. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Tri-City Sports Now, this is our final segment. You see where Lane Kiffin, I know Nick Saban, I'm going to come right out. Nick Saban may have won his 5th national championship at Alabama. He may have won 6 national titles overall. But you know what? I'm sorry, the guy's a liar. No, he really is. He really is. And he is a guy, Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin calls you out. But no, I'll give you an example. 2016 press conference. He claims it isn't. He doesn't know it's election day. So I guess we can, be relieved of the questions of who'd you vote for, Nick Saban? But really, you don't know. You're Rip Van Winkle. You've been living under a rock. I know the demands of football coaches, but the man must have flunked civics then to not know that in a leap year, the first Tuesday after the first Monday of November is the presidential election date. I mean, the man doesn't know his calendar then. Does he not know that December 25th is Christmas? Does he not know that the 4th of July is the 4th of July? Didn't know it's election day? Give me a break. You're not telling the truth. Lane Kiffin points out the absurdity of Nick Saban's latest claim. He doesn't yell at his assistants very much at all. We know that. We saw in the back when Lane was the offensive coordinator. No. I wondered why he didn't just go up into the booth, Lane Kiffin, to just get away from that. Anyway, NFL action, the games. Let's see here. You've got the Titans and Patriots on Saturday. You've also got the Falcons and the Eagles. You've got the Steelers and the Jaguars on Sunday. And there's also the Saints and the Vikings. The circumstance here that we need to get into, and I'll be giving you my picks later on. 4-0, by the way, heads up last week in the playoffs here. 2-1 with the spread, but I got to tell you something. This is just all the proof you need that Vegas knows what they're doing here, because I try to stay away from the spreads. I try to stay away from, that. And it stems from the fact that I had a friend once, and he took my advice. I was not aware he was going to bet the game. And he said, who do you think is going to win this game? And I told him what I thought. And he went out and he lost $2,000 on it. But against the number, because I generally try to pick games to push if I think the favored team is going to win. And I'll tell you why here in just a second. Why Vegas is Vegas. Spread on the Bills and the Jaguars. And by the way, if the Bills bring back Tyrod Taylor, then they'll go another 17 years without a playoff appearance, I think. But Bills and Jags, 8.5-point spread, or 7-point game that the Jaguars win. Check out Saints and Panthers. Oh, I thought the Saints would win. They do by 5 points. 6-point spread. How about Alabama and Georgia? Georgia covered. It's a 4-point spread. They lose by 3 in OT. Some other news going around. The Panthers did not believe that the intentional grounding by Cam Newton was an intentional grounding. They thought he was out of the pocket. I still am not sure that, that was the main difference. I mean, let's face it. So it's not intentional grounding. So it's an incomplete pass. What's the difference now? Is the yardage and the 10 seconds really going to make that big of a difference? I will point this out. There is one referee that is walking away from the game after the NFL play. And it's supposed to be the best officials in the playoffs, remember. But they have hastily crafted teams. Jeff Triplett is ejecting himself. Jeff Triplett has decided to retire after the Titans' 22-21 victory against the Chiefs that he called. He was a field judge starting in 96, promoted to referee in 99. One of the more recognizable names. He's a regular Jerry Markbright, I guess. But the most, officials, you try not to know him, obviously. But he was the guy who hit Orlando Zeus Brown with the flag back in 99. Remember that? And he was knocked down by Brown, and Jerry Glanville then suggested on the air that Brown should be tested for drugs, and Jerry Glanville wasn't back as a studio host after that, and he went back into coaching. There is a feeling because of the second quarter play in which Marcus Mariota fumbled and Chiefs recovered, but there was an inadvertent whistle. I've seen games turned on inadvertent whistles before. It's not pretty. The 87 Bluebonnet Bowl, I think, was decided on an inadvertent whistle, if you want to know. But unlike there, I can't tell you that I know the officiating crew from the 87 Bluebonnet Bowl. It was the last Bluebonnet Bowl. So, in other words, the inadvertent whistle killed that bowl game. Well, the inadvertent whistle, which may or may not have helped the Titans win, it's going to end the officiating career of Jeff Triplett. Been an official since 99. So he starts when the Bills, make the playoffs with Rob Johnson and Doug Flutie, and he ends when they make the playoffs with Tyrod Taylor and Nate Peterman. And I swear that I would rather have Nate Peterman go into my season than Tyrod Taylor. I mean, that was absolutely a horrible performance. People say, who threw the final pick? Yeah, I buy that. I wonder about Peterman's arm strength now, but Taylor ain't getting it done. Not 134 yards passing, less than 50% throwing. No, he's not getting it done. I did want to mention, and I'll try to close out the show a little bit here, and I want to put to death an urban legend. Spoke of this at the start of the show. Jerry Van Dyke passed away during the weekend. 86. Jerry Van Dyke was known for a couple of roles. Crabtree on one of the most maligned television series of all time, My Mother the Car. And also, he was Luther Van Damme on Coach more recently. And really, I think his career was resurrected with Coach. He was the lovable Luther. Maybe not quite so bright, but then again, if he doesn't make that call on the linemen, and their stance from the hospital bed in the Pioneer Bowl, then I don't think the Minnesota State Screaming Eagles win the national championship. Do you? Could eat a lot of peanuts. That was a lovable character. We all know Luther Van Damme, Jerry Van Dyke. My grandfather liked the character a lot. He got a kick out of those guys. There was a rumor that, I guess, Coach started in, 1989. And Don Riley was the head football coach at ETSU from 1988 to 1991. And Riley also, he was an ETSU grad. He had come from UCLA, where he was the offensive line coach. He was not successful here. He only won 12 games in 3 years. And, a lot of people then were picking on Riley, who, didn't project himself perhaps as well as he could have as a head coach. Very country, there became a rumor that the character of Luther Van Dam was based on Don Riley at this time. That became an urban legend around Johnson City, Tennessee. I am here to tell you there is absolutely no truth to that rumor. I have asked Don Riley, maybe I ought to try to get him back on. Maybe I ought to ask one of the producers of Coach to come on and also quell this. But the story is that I have actually asked Don Riley this. That's a very interesting interview that you do. You go to Don Riley and you try to talk about, well, what could have been better, as your tenure there, and what are you proud of as your coach? Zane Vance was one of his disciples. Zane Vance, who's now the defensive coordinator at Charleston Southern, used to be the head football coach at Unicoi County, actually. And he'd been an assistant on 2 D1 programs, was Vance as well. Here was a guy, and you ask him straight up, so, Coach, are you Luther? And Riley chuckled about it and had a good time and said, no, I know where that, the rumor is out there, but I'm not. I really am not. That's not true. And he took it in good spirits. I'll tell you that much. But the thing that bothers me is that, the story goes, I guess there was somebody from the UCLA football team that became a writer or whatever. There are rosters of UCLA football teams, and there are writing credits of television programs. And so you would think that you'd be able to connect the two after all these years. But you know what? No name has come up, and that's because there's no truth to the rumor. It's an urban legend. Lay off Don Riley. Get on him for the 12 victories in 4 years. Don't call him Luther. It's not true. And that is just so local media that you wouldn't even ask the guy like I did. Final case, and we've got other sports talk shows in this market that are actually tweeting that out. So you get the truth here on Tri-City Sports Now with me, Marky Bilson. Final thing I did want to point out, not only, did I ask, not only would I point out that, there are credits, you could trace that if it was true, and it's never come up, no name has emerged. But the creator of Coach was not from Los Angeles. He was from Iowa. Hey, I'm Marky Bilson. We do this every day, noon to 2. Thanks to Randy Sanders for stopping by and breaking those scoops. You can watch the archives on our Facebook page. Colin Cowherd is next.
WBMB.